Joining us today is Emmy Award-winning director and producer Ed Wiseman, who's going to share with us some of his projects, including his latest documentary, Airway, The Battle to Breathe. Ed, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Mabel. It's good to see you after all these years. I remember when you started as an intern 25 years ago in our production office in Manhattan, and you're the same diligent, wonderful person as you were back then. I'm not surprised that you have succeeded.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very kind of you. Did you have to mention the years, though? I'm teasing. Not at all. It's all good. And I was going to say, I've had the pleasure of working with you, and it's a delight to be able to see you years later and to see that you continue to work on projects that are so meaningful. Because when I had the pleasure of meeting you and working under you to some extent, because you were a director and I was a production assistant and a researcher, so I got to see you more behind the scenes, but on a daily basis you were doing your own thing, and you were working at the time on a children's program called Puzzle Place. And I thought it was so meaningful that you had these characters sharing with children important lessons about life.
It's true, and it was a great series working in a really good production company. And I remember your work as an intern, so it must have been really good work because we were busy. We were producing like 300 stories in a year or two, and it was crazy. And we were doing the live action portion of the show that was mainly about puppets and or Muppets, and you helped us find locations and places for those segments that sometimes included the puppets on camera, and it was an amazing experience. It was a great show. We worked with great people.
And really, your legacy continues because now you're working on another project with your own production company and your wife, Orly Wiseman, who I had the pleasure of getting to know a little bit at that time as well. So your company is Moving Pictures, and you're working on a special documentary that I mentioned at the very beginning, pertaining to Sydney Avis. And her story really is remarkable. It's heart wrenching to some degree. I had the pleasure of watching the trailer. And so my understanding is that she's been having trouble since she was very young, about 2 years old, and having trouble just feeling lethargic, but excessively lethargic, not being able to sleep. And in the trailer, she talks a little bit about that. What, how did you meet her, and what made you and Orly want to tell this story?
Yeah, well, we actually met Sydney because our families know each other. As we spoke to her dad, who is Dr. Avis, and he's a dentist in town in New York, that she was experiencing this fatigue that you just mentioned since she was a young girl. What was amazing is as we started to film with her, thinking, is this in her head? Is this stress? Is this what she's eating? We found out it was not only a big deal, but that it was more common than what we realized. As we are researching this project, and as we continue to film and meet doctor after doctor, we realize that there are tens of thousands, maybe 100,000. There are some doctors that say millions of people that are experiencing similar problems and either being not diagnosed, misdiagnosed, or being diagnosed and not getting the right treatment. And it's no one's fault at this time. It's just that it's so new. There aren't solutions out there yet that fits everyone. But it has to do with the airway. That we have airways that we depend upon. We need to breathe, and we need to breathe through our noses, not necessarily through our mouths. And we need to get enough air to replenish their body to give it what it needs to live. In Sydney's case, it became such a problem that over the years it affected her development, her mental and physical and emotional development. So Sydney was not and had not been sleeping properly. Her airway was collapsing while she slept. But we didn't discover that until almost 3 years into the project. We're in our fourth year now because every test that she went to and took found a little problem here or there. It wasn't until we went to Dr. Zaghi and we in LA and we did a DICE procedure, a drug-induced sleep endoscopy, where she was induced to sleep, and then we saw airway collapse with the cameras in the room. It was pretty amazing. And that'll be in the final film. We didn't include that in the trailer. And Sydney just experienced, a surgical procedure that is supposed to fix the problem. And I say supposed to in the sense that it's almost always successful for what her condition is. And it's, in my opinion, radical, having your upper and lower jaw move forward and your upper jaw rotated. The recovery is months long, and Sydney's in the middle of recovery, swollen, inflamed. And after surgery, I said, Dr. Moped, is Sydney going to feel better? Is she going to feel like she can breathe? And he basically said, only time will tell. We're going to take her story through the process of post-procedure testing. So we have a before and after picture and metrics. And we're exploring all kinds of other areas that are related to the airway. There's an anthropological aspect of it. Our jaws are not, and our faces are not what they were 300 or 400 or 1,000 years ago. We've changed over time. By no means am I an expert. I'm only sharing you the things that we've learned. And we've been changed by this documentary. And we started it, as I mentioned, saying, thinking Sydney could be just imagining this. And as a parent, you wonder, how could you be that affected? And now we've come to understand that, no, she has been physically impaired, and that there's so many others that are physically impaired as well. And the documentary should save many, many lives. That's our hope.
Was that one of the reasons that Sydney and her family wanted to share the story as well? Because it's so personal, I would think. I mean, I see the good that it can do, but also it could be a little challenging to expose yourself in that manner.
Well, Sydney is a remarkable young woman, I have to tell you. And the whole Avis family are pretty cool. Just because they're so open and giving, it's just amazing. So Sydney, being very optimistic, very A plus, personality, wanted to tackle this head on. And when Dr. Avis said, you know what, this is something we should probably document. Let's start recording on our cell phones. They thought, you know what, let's talk to some professional filmmakers and see if we can get a film done. And we arranged for it to get all financed and be independent, so it can be distributed later without any strings attached. And that's what's happened. And Sydney basically made it a personal project that became a film. I don't know how to say, like, this became part of her personal growth. It's like, I need to go through this. I need to breathe better. I need to feel better. And I think for Sydney, she has become the grand coper of life. She copes with this, physical disability. And the film, I think, is another way for her to feel like she's doing something positive and coping.
I think it's a way of self-expressing. I think also if we bottle things up, it just makes it that much worse. If we're emotionally, mentally not in a good state, that impacts us physically. By her sharing her story, she's helping so many other people that may be experiencing the same thing and may feel alone.
This is so right on. We launched a website. Normally you make a film, and when you're near the end, you launch the website and start a trailer and share the film. But because of COVID and and the restrictions, we couldn't film for months, In fact, her procedure was delayed for months. We were in a holding pattern. So what we decided to do was we decided to launch the website and introduce the world to the story, even though we have another year of filming left, and create a trailer about where we are up till now, or up till then in the early spring, and then add a blog to it that would keep people up to date, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I have to tell you, the website and trailer have touched so many people. We have thousands of people connecting with us now. We have people sending messages to us saying, I feel the same way, or my doctor thinks I should get surgery, or I'm not sure what's wrong with me, but Sydney, your experience sounds so similar. Or, can you tell us a doctor to see, because, I need to get to a specialist and solve this problem. The frustration level is so eerily similar to Sydney's. Um, and and they're so happy, these folks, that there is someone else out there that doesn't think they're crazy, that realizes that there's a real problem. So 100%, that is a major aspect of Sydney's journey.
You mentioned early on the name of this particular illness, disease. What was it called again?
Oh, there are disorders of the airway. And what we're finding out is that there are multiple disorders. Her issue was that her jaw is so far back that that the soft tissue inside her throat was closing when she was sleeping, and it wasn't because her neck is thick or that she was overweight or obese or she had a different problem. We also in the film explore appliances, devices that dentists create that actually bring your jaw forward, your upper and lower jaw forward. Uh, Dr. Michael Gelb, creates these amazing appliances where you push the jaw forward or up or lower, daytime and nighttime, and it's just millimeters, but it opens the airway enough that some people can completely reduce their snoring, eliminate their snoring, and there are before and after pictures of folks where there's an amazing transformation in their faces. They just go from tired, sagging, sad, depressed faces to faces that are just gorgeous in the sense that they're beautiful to look at because they're healthy and the people are breathing and they're no more sagging, baggy faces. They're getting oxygen. So those, and Sydney tried those, and they showed that there was an answer there because they worked, but they didn't work well enough. They couldn't overcome the larger problem she had. So the film will explore the varying degrees of obstruction or disorder with the airway. And what we're hoping too is that those in the medical field and healthcare, and even those in government will open up their eyes and ears to the issue, because it seems as if, as filmmakers, our observation is that major healthcare problems can be avoided by dealing with the airway, which means that heart disease and other issues that end up costing a fortune later on could potentially be avoided by just dealing with the airway when you're younger. There are dentists, like Dr. Boyd, who say that you can treat people as early as 2 or 3 and start to deal with the mouth and the jaw and the teeth and all of that stuff to make sure that the children develop better, so that as they get older, they have more air. Again, we're explorers. We're discovering. My opinion is the opinion that the film teaches me. I'm not going in with an agenda. I know nothing about this topic. I'm discovering with the audience.
You mentioned that her surgery was postponed for a bit because of COVID-19 and this pandemic. Have you had the opportunity to speak to her since she had the surgery? And how is she dealing, obviously, with still being well, I would assume that she's being quarantined just to be protected. And in one of the videos that I saw, she talks a little bit about that. It seemed that her frustration, that she's unable to find work. So what has been like some of your dialogue with her?
We've actually filmed with her. Obviously, we're being very careful throughout this whole process, and she's we haven't interviewed her yet because she has a very difficult time talking. But we have filmed her trying to eat soft foods and it not working well. She's still on liquids. That's changing right now as we speak. We're going to be filming with her this week a little bit more. So her progress has been difficult, but not atypical. I mean, your jaw has been cut into 2 places, and there's no nasal work that has been done, and each patient has something a little bit different done. There's no, automatic format. There's no style template. So she's in recovery from pain management, swelling, et cetera, et cetera. And every patient that we've spoken to that's gone through a similar surgery a year or 2 later has no real strong recollection of that pain and that recovery. Sydney is at that tough place right now. But right now, it's too early to tell how well she feels. The journey continues. It's step by step,
On the website airwaydocumentary.com, I saw that you have a tab that says if you want to get involved. So for viewers that are watching, how can they get involved?
Well, we're looking for folks with various, to be involved in various ways. If you're a medical professional, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what you're doing, what your experiences are, how you're working with patients. If you're a patient or if you're someone who has these symptoms, we would love to know what your experience is. This film will include interviews with other folks that have experienced similar issues. So we're collecting those names and those folks and talking to them and finding out how they're doing. Some of these people have seen the same doctors, some have seen different doctors, but we'd love to hear more. And then we're also interested in anyone who wants to expand the film at all.
Ed, we were talking about our experience working at Puzzle Place years ago, where I had the pleasure of meeting you and your wife. And at that time, you worked with a wonderful group of people. I'd like to say myself included, but really there were producers, associate producers, assistant directors, researchers. Do you still stay in touch with some of those folks? And then it makes me think, how many people are working with you on this particular project, especially in light of the pandemic?
Well, I have to tell you, those folks were amazing. They were working on Puzzle Place, Reading Rainbow, a number of other projects, and of course, you fit right in with their amazing work. Ellen Doherty, who is one of the associate producer on the project with me, is now I think an executive producer at Fred Rogers' company, and she's doing amazing stuff there. She's just great. And there was Stacey Rader, who I think is now sort of retired and is now teaching, but she was wonderful. And Ari Haberberg, was assistant director, and he's doing really well now. And who else was there? Larry and Cecily, of course. Larry Lance and Cecily Truitt owned the company. They've retired now. But all of these folks have had amazing careers. Of course, Orly, my wife, Orly Wiseman, is working with me on this documentary.
So now let's move forward so many years later and working on this particular project. You said you did meet with Sydney not long ago. You weren't able to speak to her because she's still recovering. But in terms of a crew, what are you relying on right now?
We're going very, very small because of COVID and also because technology has allowed us to do this. I mean, I was always a director who hadn't picked up a camera since college, but I've now picked up the camera, and because they're so forgiving and they're so wonderful, so that I can work with other cameramen and work with my own material and go out there. So we've tightened up the crews. They're very small. I like to be a fly on the wall. I do not like to be disruptive. I like to allow things to flow on their own.
When this project is over, Ed, can viewers expect to see additional trailers and just continued progress on how the film is going?
Yeah, I mean, we're continually adding clips right now as we're filming. We want to keep people up to date, but not give away too much of the heart of the story. Um, it's like going to the movies and watching a trailer and then like you've seen the whole film already. We don't want to do that. So you will have that, and then as the film is released and distributed, we'll work with our distribution to make sure that the right material is out there. I mean, right now this could end up being a 2 or 3 part film series. I mean, this is just amazing the amount of material that we're getting that is holding together and holding audiences. So let's see.
Ed, we've been talking about the trailer and some of the video clips that people can find on the website. So share with us what's this particular trailer that we're about to see?
This is the trailer that we created when we couldn't be filming during COVID. So we took the time to make a little, it's 12, 13-minute trailer. It's pretty significant that touches upon all the areas in the film that we had filmed up to the time of about last March or April. Well, I'm sorry, this past March or April. So it has moments of explains the problem of the airway, and it then gets into Sydney's personal story and takes us right up to her waiting for surgery. That's where we are.
Imagine an invisible intruder slips into your bedroom while you sleep and begins to wrap his hands around your throat and squeezes, collapsing your airway. Your brain panics and wakes you up so you can draw a breath. You're relieved. But this nightmare repeats over and over again in a single night. Somewhere between 23 and 102 million people struggle with airway sleep disorders in the United States today. This group is not just obese men over the age of 50. They are teens, 20-somethings, and young women who seem healthy and fit. And up to 7 million are children under the age of 18. A healthy airway is wide in diameter and allows you to breathe freely while you sleep. Sleep disorders close off the airway and deprive the body and mind of oxygen. Millions are suffering from a long list of health challenges directly related to their airway. The collapsing airway has become an epidemic that is largely untreated. It's killing people, shortening the lives of way too many.
I'm somewhere in the middle, try to find myself again. But life is one big riddle of the future and what's been.
This is the story of the airway and how one young woman has battled to breathe since she was 2 years old.
I have always been lethargic, like tired, dragging, exhausted. I mean, when I was little, you can see the pictures. I'm swollen, I'm sleepy, I'm taking naps, I'm home from school sick all the time, mouth hanging open. I really can't remember a time when I felt so healthy and so gung-ho. I think that I thought that I felt healthy because I didn't know any better.
For more than 2 decades, Sydney Avis has struggled with flagging energy, loss of focus, digestive issues, exhaustion, and poor quality of life.
I would say almost never that I have a day where I feel really energized and great.
I mean, I go to bed pretty early. I try to go to bed by 9.
When I wake up in the morning, throughout the day, I'm just like kind of feeling like a blob when I have so much to do and I know that I have the drive in me.
Remember I was laughing in all the photos that you took, but now it looks like acting, like we were fiction in a book. Guess it's the way it goes, and I will never know.
She has a hard time sticking to a job and has virtually no social life.
And I'm like, it's so frustrating that like I don't go out with my friends or I don't get dinner because I'm like, I have to go to bed early to get a good night's sleep.
Look to the left, look to the right, nothing can stop me in the night. Like
She works hard at her health, exercising rigorously, eating very clean,
I know you did.
practicing mindfulness, following an aggressive sleep routine, and implementing myofunctional therapy. All this has helped her cope, but she is only powering through the problem, not solving it.
Tonight we're running on the right track. I know we never gonna look back.
I think I'm like the luckiest girl in the world to have this family. It's so much laughter all the time. A lot of dancing and singing, even though none of us can dance or sing. It really is like a really special family.
So Sydney, since she's a young child, has really struggled with breathing. I think one of the challenges always going back and forth between dad and doctor is, as her dad, I want to come up with the easiest solution. But you see, the source is challenging.
My dad and I are doing everything together. Plus, he does more than I do, making these connections, meeting these doctors, understanding all the things that I do not understand. He's just at the forefront of everything.
The times when I've referred you other patients and we've talked, do you always do it with them laying back, or what's your thought there? I think it's very important to recognize that when you go to a doctor, no matter how expansive or brilliant they are, that we all have a limited scope. It's too much to know. The likelihood is that there's several things contributing, and so you have to take from each.
I feel like it's just a journey like anything else. Like we're just trying to figure it out together.
This film has followed Sydney for over 3 years, traveling with her and seeking to discover the truth about Sydney and her airway. The cameras have been her constant companions while she's been examined and tested by medical experts. Many of the doctors have provided insight and made recommendations.
I mean, like there's a few doctors that I really trust. And even when I'm working with them, they all have such different opinions of what I should be doing to live my optimal life. And then I think, well, nobody actually knows. Everyone has an idea, but nobody knows. So I need to make the best decision for me.
Most treatments, even if successful, would only give her partial relief. One solution, though, could be the answer. But for most people, this would seem radical.
We've had a consult with Dr. Reza Mowahed in St. Louis. He and I both believe you might really benefit from having upper and lower jaw surgery to bring your jaws forward to open your airway so you could breathe better. I owe it to her, even though she's my daughter, and I don't want her to have to go through anything unnecessary. I think it could potentially unlock the key to her health.
Surgery that would cut into her jaw, rotate it, and reposition it. It would change her face and involve a long recovery.
Surgery may seem extreme, but if it's going to help you so much, isn't it worth it? I'd much rather have the surgery, recover for a few months, and be feeling better than taking a pill my whole life because I just can't cope with every day. And you're like, well, you could just end it all, but that's never been like something that sticks in my head because I know that I can get out of it.
Although there is no hard clinical data or metrics to back up her decision, she has heard from others who have taken this path and have been transformed.
Yeah, I feel amazing. I almost feel like I have too much energy.
Really? I feel much, much better after the surgery. And I don't know if it's work as well. It's a lot better after.
Is this the answer for Sydney?
People will look at me and say, like, okay, you're fine, or like, you know, you're young, you're okay. But if this is just going to be the way it is forever, I mean, I'm not going to be okay.
I'm nervous. You don't want to see your child as uncomfortable as she's going to be afterwards. It's going to be very hard. It's going to change how she looks, which, you know, we try not to focus too much on looks, but when you're used to seeing someone a certain way for so long, and it's part of their personality, it's going to be, I think that's going to be hard.
I know it like might change the look of her face, and that's like a little sad to me, but obviously if it's going to help her health, like that's what should be done, and I'm happy that it can happen.
I think it'll be like she won't be scared of it really, because she's going to take it however it comes. If she needs to do certain things, she'll be like very vigilant about going through those procedures. Not an easy road for her necessarily, but she'll abide by everything that she needs to do in order to make it as successful as possible.
I mean, if I had to select the patient for this, and I had the choice, I'd take Sydney. She's an ideal patient. She doesn't complain. She goes through it. She accepts it because it's going to be better for her, and it is going to be better for her. She's unusual, in my opinion. Of course, I'm prejudicial, and I love her to death. Yeah.
Yeah, I love her. I like really hope that she is healthier than she is now, so that like she lives forever and we can be sisters forever.
The Airway documentary will continue to follow Sydney to discover these answers. We will collect multiple clinical measurements from before and after Sydney's treatments, so we can demonstrate how the airway has affected Sydney's health and open the door to save thousands of lives.
During that short period of time, we really get a glimpse at what Sydney is experiencing at this time.
Yeah, I mean, she's a brave and wonderful person, and we're going to continue to add video clips and other information on the production blog part of the site. We have at least another year of filming, and then we have post-production. So we're talking about at least a year and a half or 2 years.
Well, Ed, it is such a pleasure, and it's so lovely to see you once again, but also to find out that you continue to do such meaningful work that impacts others. Whether
Thank
you
you.
see it or not, you said, you're always kind of behind the scenes and you're just very inquisitive, but your curiosity will allow others to deal perhaps with concerns that they need to address, which takes me back to when we first met on Puzzle Place. It was about these characters sharing their experiences or allowing children to have an understanding of what they were experiencing. And through this documentary, once again, that's what's happening. It's allowing others to perhaps learn more about what they may be experiencing, what their loved ones could possibly be experiencing. And if we could try to help Sydney in the process, again, viewers, turn to airwaydocumentary.com for more information. And just thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.